All right, tonight I am going to be talking about habit stacking specifically for weight loss. Although I really like to think of these habits as being helpful for all individuals, whether we are seeking to lose some body weight or not. If we are getting into fitness, these habits can really connect to so many areas of our health. So, as you may know, my name is Kelli. I am a registered dietitian and a personal trainer. I take a very holistic approach to the clients that I work with and really think about how we can optimize not only their lifestyle, but also are there things that we need to dive into, like hormones relating to blood sugar, thyroid health, gut health? So that is where I use more of my training in functional nutrition to really assess what potential root causes could be contributing to an individual's current health and how they are feeling. So I do virtual coaching. I'm going to be sharing some info at the end about how to reach out to me, how to connect with me, also how to get insurance coverage for coaching. So, really, really excited to be offering that. So, by the end of this um, presentation, whether you are watching it on YouTube, on my podcast, in a Facebook group. Hopefully, you're going to have a deeper understanding of what habits contribute to body composition and metabolic health, which metabolic health is referring to our heart health, our blood sugar, cholesterol, and overall just body metabolism. What habits you should be prioritizing, what is this idea of habit stacking, and how do we create behavior change? And then what habits are associated with weight regain. So a few key terms to know. Basal metabolic rate is something that I tell all of my clients about because this is something that really we do not want to miss. We do not want to go too far below our basal metabolic rate when we are eating. So that number signifies how much energy does our body need to function just at rest. If we were to lay in bed all day, how many calories would we need? Then, when we add in all of the daily movement we do, exercise, working, even just thinking, using our brain, that takes up calories. Then we get our total daily energy expenditure. Okay, so there are some different online calculators you can use to get an estimate of this. We also can use, which I didn't put on the slide, but called adjusted body weight to adjust for body fat when we are calculating out these numbers. So definitely reach out if you have questions about that. The next term is calorie deficit. So this is something that a lot of individuals will focus on for weight loss. And while there is some great research and evidence that going in a calorie deficit can lead to weight loss, we want to be really intentional and cautious of extreme calorie deficits or staying in a deficit for too long. So this is where there is some trial and error, some learning that goes into how does our body respond to food. So usually a calorie deficit, when we think of our total daily energy expenditure, could be anywhere from 10 to 20% below that. But the types of foods that we consume can also make a big difference. So that is why I tend to focus a lot more on macronutrients initially than calories. Okay, lean mass is really a scientific term for muscle. So we know that more muscle is going to lead to higher amounts of calorie and nutritional needs. Muscle is also an organ of longevity, so it's going to help us to live longer, to have lower inflammation levels, to decrease risk of poor bone density as we age, of falls as we age, so many things. That metabolism change that we oftentimes think women are going through as they hit menopause. Really, it's more of a hormonal shift and more of a decrease in muscle mass that I see. So while metabolism does play a piece in it, if we can really build and maintain our lean mass, we're not going to see as much of a weight gain and metabolic shift during menopause. So starting strength training as early as possible is something that I really advocate for and encourage women to do. I know it can be really intimidating, but that is why I'm so excited to be sharing about my app and how that can be a tool. There's a lot of really, really great trainers out there too that can just help you to get a plan in place that feels realistic and doable, whether that is at home or in a gym. So what habits do we want to be focusing on? So I like to think of habits as the big rocks. So there's this analogy that I really love. If we fill up a cup with our big rocks, right? We're gonna have some space to add in some pebbles and some sand. But if we fill all of that cup up with pebbles and sand, we're not gonna be able to fit in the big rocks probably. And these big rocks are the main foundational habits that really matter. The sand and the pebbles, these are smaller things that don't make as much of an impact. So we don't want to fill up too much of our cup with those small things. We want to first put in those big rocks, then we can fill in the excess with those smaller things. Okay. So exercise, right? We know that that is so essential for our health. Getting strength training into our routine, so important. So strength training is different than cardio. It's going to be working different muscles. We're going to have different muscle adaptations. I always say that cardio is more for our brain. It helps us produce these endorphins, they're called, these feel-good chemicals in our body. Also being outside and doing cardio can be really great for our mental health. Going biking, walking with friends. I love that. But it is not helping us to build muscle, which we know is, again, so important for increasing that metabolic rate, how many calories we can use, how our body is functioning. The next habit, meal planning. So not only do we want to understand how much to be eating and what the quality of our food, what is good quality food versus less poor quality or more, sorry, less quality food. So protein and fiber, super important, but how do we plan that out? How are we going to actually make it happen and make it a priority? So meal prep companies, those can be super helpful. Having just a meal plan written out for yourself, finding recipes that have all of these different nutrients in them, all great ways to plan out your meals for the week. Nutrient tracking, we also see a lot better weight loss with individuals who do tracking. I know that I just did this webinar for my Iowa IV clients, and I'm re-recording it because there was just some sound problems, some things that were interrupting it. But somebody had said they had tracked their protein for about 263 days in a row. So awesome. So I would say that once you've done that, you should kind of be able to intuitively tell how much protein something does have. But I think with carbs and fats, it can just take a little bit longer to learn. And some people do it more so for the mindfulness and the accountability, right? Than just the knowledge. Like you may know how much calories something has, but you still want to be accountable and just have that focus on tracking so that you are staying consistent for the long run. Focusing on mindset as well is another habit associated with our health and our weight loss efforts. So can we focus on being better and not perfect, right? Can we be finding alternatives one at a time, not changing everything all at once, but finding alternatives to those things that we know are not good for our health? Sugar, alcohol, processed fats. So when I say that, I mean more of our ultra processed foods, our fried foods, some of our vegetable oils that are found in those processed foods we know are a little more inflammatory. So the 80-20 approach can be really helpful for some of my clients, focusing on, okay, 80% of the time, here's the plan I'm going to really commit to sticking to, but I still have that 20% of more flexible time where I can do things off my plan, going out to eat, having the sweet treat at the coffee shop. So a lot of ways that we can create that balance. For some people, they're like, the 80-20 just doesn't work for me. I need to just give something up 100%. For me, that's typically not the way I go, but eventually, I think after you've done 80-20 for a long time, then you might be ready to really give up a habit. Accountability and community too is, can you find others on the journey with you that really inspire you, keep you accountable, and make healthy living fun? So which habit are you most proud of recently? Just take a moment to hype yourself up about something good that you've been doing, encourage yourself, and remind your brain that you can commit to new habits and make changes. So I do want to get into a quick moment for strength training. So I talk about it a lot. I encourage women to do it, but still I hear a lot of misconceptions, a lot of people that are scared to go to gyms. And I totally understand that it can be a very intimidating place, and it's a learning curve to know how to build a workout, what to do. That's something that my app, again, I'm really excited to have a lot of different levels of strength training at home in a gym without equipment even. But just so that you are aware, if lack of knowledge is more of your concern. So what is the difference between weight training, running, and Pilates? Okay. Strength training with weights, kettlebells, body weight is going to help increase that lean body mass, that muscle. That does not mean we're going to get big and bulky. I mean, I really don't want women even concerned with that because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and very consistent nutrition to be gaining a lot of muscle definition and completely lose all of your body fat. Like that is pretty difficult. I've been lifting for a long, long time, and I am still not that well defined. Like I could definitely still would love to be more muscular. And I eat well, I eat enough food to build muscle. It takes a long time. So progressive overload is the idea of doing the same lifts each week. So your body adjusts and learns that adaptation, and you can do a little heavier, a little more reps possibly, right? So that is really the strength training. You're doing the same lifts, squats, deadlifts, push-ups, bench press regularly, okay? Pilates, on the other hand, while it does still feel like resistance on your muscles, so to some extent you are building strength, it's a different type of metabolic adaptation. So strength training going heavy to failure puts a different type of adaptation is really the best way I can describe it. Dr. Stacy Sims goes into this in some of her content, but Pilates is going to be great for helping you connect to your body, connect to your breath, working on some balance, mobility, core strength, but it is just not going to have the same effect in building that lean muscle tissue as strength training will. Cardio, on the other hand, like I said, it's going to improve the mood, cardiovascular endurance. It doesn't always lead to fat loss, unfortunately. It can potentially, but the calorie loss from cardio is not typically the reason we're losing weight. So I really put caution on doing only cardio. Okay, podcast is listed there at the bottom of that slide that goes really deep into some of this specifically for women. So next, I want to talk a little bit about, do you need to have a diet plan that you're following that is, right, like one of those talked about diets, like keto, Mediterranean, paleo, right? So there's been many throughout the years that have been created, and oftentimes they're very difficult to stick to. They might be lacking certain nutrients, but I do just want to talk through 3 approaches that can be helpful at times. We are all unique, different individuals, and we need to really tap into what feels good for us. But when it comes to anti-inflammatory diets, what does that mean? Okay, inflammation, very vague term, and something that can truly differ from individual to individual, right? So for one person, gluten may cause an inflammatory response. For another, they tolerate it just fine. Same with dairy. Same with something like some spinach, right? Different foods potentially can cause inflammation due to imbalances in our gut, called gut dysbiosis. We don't need to get into all of that right now, but generally we have realized in research that plant-based foods are very anti-inflammatory. So we want to be including those, as well as muscle, right? So we need to have enough protein in our diet to build and maintain muscle. Muscle is very anti-inflammatory, okay? So that is why I highlight protein and fiber. Fiber is only found in plant-based foods. So I really highly encourage having those things in whatever diet plan you are going to include and having lots of them. So the MIND diet, MIND, was created to really help support brain health, fight off depression, anxiety, help decrease cognitive decline. It's very rich in phytonutrients, which are plant compounds. It combines the Mediterranean and the DASH diet. DASH is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So that one was studied to help with blood pressure. So really a good variety of foods, contains meats, contains dairy, olive oil. Excuse me. All of the foods that I use regularly in my diet, and I encourage most of my clients to have. The next one is the paleo or more ancestral diet. So I'm thinking more of things that diet patterns that may exclude focus more on excluding things like sugar, dairy, grains, even legumes. Some individuals take those out because they don't digest them well. So some individuals with autoimmune conditions or gut problems may do well on one of these types of diets. There's a lot of similarities again between the mind and the paleo, but really limiting processed foods. I think that doing some functional labs could help you see if that one might be the best option for you if you're not seeing results from whatever you're doing right now. And then the last option is low calorie weight loss diets, which I think could include intermittent fasting or just calorie restriction into that calorie deficit, where you don't even cut out any foods and you may see weight loss benefits, especially if you are adding in that strength training, you're eating enough to be able to build some muscle. So yeah, I think that those three approaches can all work, and you can also kind of fluctuate between them if that feels like it's working well. So I really recommend having some tracking, assess your body composition, look at even basic blood markers like fasting glucose, cholesterol. How are these changing? Are they improving? Do you feel better? Is your digestion improving? All so important to see if your diet is really working for you. So last caution with diets and calorie deficits, if we go too low, some signs and symptoms you want to look out for that are a red flag to me, that you're having a lot of low energy, more than normal. A lot of people come to me saying that they're struggling with fatigue already, and once they start eating better, they have more energy. But if you're going in the opposite direction, we want to figure out why. Sleep changes, hair loss, constipation, menstrual changes, mood swings, all can be impacted by our food. And I know for me personally, as a college athlete, having some menstrual irregularities, that was really related to just not eating enough and missing some key nutrients in my diet. As I started to improve that, my cycle really started to regulate. And that unfortunately is something a lot of women are not well educated on by doctors who just don't have time to go into all of that. Okay, so now that you've had some overview of those foundational things that I want you to prioritize for your health, let's talk a little bit about how to apply that. My system of using habit stacking. So the book Atomic Habits by James Clear is where I pull some of this knowledge from. So a few things I want to highlight from this book that really have resonated with me over the years is to learn how to choose identity-based habits over outcome-based habits. So rather than focusing so much of our energy and thought on doing something because I want to get this result, I want to lose 20 pounds, instead, we are going to actually make a lot more progress if we focus on the identity of I am someone who meal preps. I am someone who enjoys plant-based foods. I am someone who lifts weights regularly, right? Becoming that and believing that we can do that and we can be that person is really, really important. We have to believe that. So telling yourself those thoughts, writing out those thoughts. Next one is to focus on small changes. So he talks about becoming 1% better every day. I actually can't remember what the percentage was. I should have added that to the slide, but he says if you become 1% better every day, then by the end of the year, you're like 30% better, something like that. So it is gradual, but those things really do compound over time. The next one, really similar to that first one, but focusing on systems over goals, right? So if you want to become someone who meal preps, what is your system for meal planning and grocery shopping? So essential, so important. It's something I have continuously tweaked and adjusted and improved over the years to make it efficient, make it seem easy, make it convenient, make it something I don't dread and that doesn't take a whole lot of extra time. That can also help us to save money, right? Is finding where we can get the best quality products. I'm definitely not shopping at Whole Foods for everything, but there are certain things that I really enjoy from there that I will make an extra trip for, or I might order online. So typically most people don't want to get everything at the same store. Sometimes we can, but yeah, lots of fun products that we can be including in our meals at home that can make cooking and meal planning just simpler. Okay, last is learning the 4 laws of behavior change, which we are going to go through here. So first law is that every habit has a cue, right? What is it that triggers us to think about doing this behavior. For example, right, when I get stressed, I think about going to grab a cookie. That might be, okay, how do I limit the stress? If that's something that I maybe can't limit, it's a non-negotiable thing that is just part of my life. How do I then make that make a more helpful cue? So how do I put healthy sweet snacks in my cupboard to have those instead of a higher sugar cookie? Maybe it is having a list of daily habits that I look at in the morning. That could be a cue to then do that habit. Like that can be a helpful cue. Or having an accountability person that you are going to talk to every week. When they text you, that's going to be a cue, hopefully, that's helpful to do your meal prep or whatever it is. Next law is that we always will have a craving, a force behind the habit too, right? So just because we feel stressed and we want to eat something, the craving is really we want to feel calm, right? So we don't crave the actual habit, we crave the change in state and mood and feeling that we feel like it's going to deliver us. So associating positive habits with positive feelings. What does that mean? How do we do this? Right? So we want to start a new habit, such as walking more, right? But that feels really hard to do. It's hard to prioritize. How can we maybe do that with something positive that we're already doing? Doing it with a friend, putting a treadmill in our living room and watching our favorite TV show while we walk on the treadmill, right? That's a positive thing with our more challenging task. Okay. The next one we're going to have is a response to whatever habit it is that we perform. So in order to create positive responses to our positive habits, we can have a habit tracker to help us see, okay, I did this. Now, maybe eventually I have a reward for that. We'll get to rewards next. Or maybe that response is, oh, I didn't do this. And that makes me feel disappointed in myself or sad. Or we have an accountability person. I know when I have my boyfriend checking in on my sleep because we have Whoop bands, it makes me feel a little more guilty when I cut out my sleep and don't prioritize that. And to me, that's important that I have somebody checking in on me so that I'm not making excuses and procrastinating my health goals, that I actually do prioritize them. No, we don't want to pick too many things at once to prioritize, but when we have a system where it's a really realistic goal, I think that having that accountability is so important. I also put a note here that one of my clients said this week that I thought was so important is that just by tracking her meals, she felt like she started eating more mindfully. So sometimes just having that tracking, it just makes us think a little bit more about the behaviors we're doing because we know it's going to get tracked. So the last behavior law is the reward, right? We're always going to have an end result of any habit. And that could either be something good, like we start to see progress towards our weight loss goals, or it could be something that, right, we don't see progress. We get disappointed, we get frustrated, we continue to feel fatigued or whatever it is. So I think as we focus on weight loss specifically, I'm oftentimes encouraging people to extend their goals a little bit longer, be really realistic about slow and steady weight loss, but to have some weekly things that we are seeing progress on. So while we want to have those long-term goals, monthly, weekly, and daily habits can be so important. So I have a spreadsheet from another creator that I included in my January reset email thread. So if you want to still join that, totally okay to join that a little late. It's just 31 days of emails, or I can just email that directly to you. Let me know if you're interested in that spreadsheet. It's super helpful, but really what it does is just breaks down how do we create those rewards for ourselves by setting monthly, weekly, and daily habits, and then seeing that progress, visually seeing it, and giving ourselves that encouragement to keep going. Okay, so a few examples of how to adjust goals that my clients may set in our calls. So first, if the goal is to eat a Mediterranean style diet rich in fiber and plant-based foods, great goal. That's more of a long-term goal, right? I want to commit to this style of eating. I know it's going to help my brain health, so many things. So as we are getting started with that, a goal that we might set is I will make a meal plan including fruits, vegetables, olive oil, mixed nuts, cheese, fish, and chicken, all things that are great Mediterranean style foods. Okay, so that would be a weekly goal. Um, in order to really make sure every single week that I do this, I'm going to pair my meal planning and prep with something fun. So I know some people really say they just don't want to make the time for meal prep, but it really can be about 1 hour of your weekend after you've gotten the groceries. That can take longer, but grocery ordering can be super helpful. So, anyways, I will listen to my favorite show or podcast while I put away and prepare ingredients for the meals. That would be a great way of preparing habit stacking. And then the last idea would be I will share a photo of my meal prep with an accountability partner every single week, right? Or maybe it is a coach. Okay, so next goal, I will track my calories and macronutrients to stay within my goal range. Okay, so a goal set around tracking, which again can be a very long-term thing to keep you accountable, keep you consistent. So let's say that this goal was unsuccessful for a couple of weeks in a row. You kept forgetting to do it. You just didn't make it a priority. How do we make that goal a little more achievable and easier? I would say instead of aiming to track everything all at once, I would start with just tracking protein to hit that consistently and maybe even just tracking for 3 days this week, right? And then maybe the next week you do fiber. The next week you do fat. The next week you do sugar. Eventually you do a couple days where you really look at everything. And just thinking through what gaps do I have in my diet? This is also something that as a dietitian, I would really help guide people towards is, okay, what gaps do I think that they have? Where might they be over or under eating? So meeting with an RD monthly for some accountability and guidance too could be really helpful. It might be simpler than you think to make those adjustments. Next example is I will think less negatively about previous weight loss efforts which were unsuccessful. All right, so maybe you're just really struggling with those anxious thoughts, struggling to believe that you can make progress because in the past it hasn't been working out. I truly do believe that everybody can improve their health. It's just finding the right approaches that work for their body. And sometimes body size is just not the best indicator, but I do believe, right, all of the lifestyle adjustments we make will make a difference. They will add up over time. So to change that type of a belief, there's a process that I use with my clients where we talk about clearing a belief, and I have an app that I really like called the Higher Self app that I'll have people use, or we'll talk through this. But trying to really think about what is cueing those thoughts, first of all. Is there a specific person, a specific time of day? Thinking through that, just kind of becoming aware of why am I having these thoughts? Then journaling out positive thoughts that you can replace that thought with. Maybe you hang those on your mirror, you practice them in the morning. You just continuously do that. You can record yourself and listen to them. That's what this app is used for. So finding tools like that, I think that there's a lot of books out there as well that can be really helpful. Atomic Habits, Intuitive Eating Workbook, Untethered Soul are some of my favorites to really work through that mindset aspect of health changes. Okay, so we talked through what is habit stacking, how to set some realistic goals to really help prevent this weight regain that we will see, right? People that go through those cycles. And so remember that the best plan that you can commit to is the one you can maintain for a really long time, for forever, really. So we know that less physical activity, I oftentimes hear people say, oh, I get on these kicks, or I do a 90-day challenge, and then I stop, right? It needs to be something we can do forever, okay? Yes, you can change different seasons of life. I know some of my clients who are moms, right? There's just going to be those seasons where it's a lot harder to fit in. I try to really help them find ways, but just figuring out how you can prioritize that physical activity. The next one is eating out more frequently, which again, as we change jobs, more travel, I know that that can happen. There's still going to be tips though, how you can bring items along. Please let me know if you have questions about products and things like that for on the go. I have a lot of resources around that. A shopping guide. I have a supplement guides, all of that to help out with eating out. But I know it can just be a lifestyle thing, and that is something that you can work in, is how to eat out with balance. Consumption of more refined sugary drinks and alcohol, definitely. Being a grazer, right? So that is where we want to focus on those solid meals when we are following one of those diets, which I have a little more about macros coming up here. And then sleep deprivation, higher levels of stress, which hopefully we all know experiencing, but life does happen. Okay, so these were some of the questions I had the most recent time I presented this to a group. So they were some really great questions. I want to just quick walk through. So what macro breakdown do I recommend? Great question. I recommend about 30% protein, so 30% of your calories coming from protein, 30% from carbs, 30% from fats. I do recommend a little higher on the fats than some dietitians might. So some individuals may do better on a little lower fat, higher carb diet. I give that 10% as being pretty flexible. But I really just find that when we are doing a lot of plant-based foods and getting those fats in, they can really just keep our appetite more stable, help keep blood sugar really stable. And so I have other content on blood sugar specifically and timing of our macros, but first, just looking at your total day and is it approximately this ratio, I think is a great place to start, and just aiming for some consistency. But yeah, we do just find genetically people have a little bit different needs. So figuring out how you feel best and what works for you can take some trial and error for sure. Okay, thoughts on sugar alternatives. So specifically, someone had asked me about like zero sodas, like Coke Zero. I really do tend to opt for stevia or monk fruit personally. But I know that some individuals really like certain brands, and they feel like the stevia and monk fruit just don't taste quite the same. So I would still encourage you to try those. See if you like them. They are from a plant, and they are just less chemically modified. So we're still researching stevia and monk fruit, but I have seen some promising studies that they don't have a major impact on our gut. In moderation, they can be part of a really healthy diet plan. I would say the diet sodas and Coke Zeros are going to be still better than your regular sodas that have a lot more real sugar because of how they impact your blood sugar, but still take some caution with those if they are an everyday thing. Okay, podcasts I recommend for nutrition and fitness information. I honestly do not listen to a ton. I do a lot more reading, but Huberman Lab is a great one. I really like how in-depth his content is. They're very long. You have to focus pretty hard on them because they are so long, but he has a really good one on women's health, the Dr. Stacy Sims one. Another really good one recently on menopause. So definitely check those out if those are topics of interest. And then I also really like the Dr. Mark Hyman show for more of a functional medicine approach. I would say that both of those are a lot more research logic based than some I listen to are more around mindset and how to make those mindset shifts. So I would say my podcast, the Unfiltered Nourishment podcast, I have a variety of different topics, so definitely check mine out. I'm trying to include some mindset as well as some more just like research things I'm learning about. But yeah, anyways, the mindset ones I listen to, I'm trying to think of the names. Mel Robbins, like that's a really good one, not necessarily all health focused, but really good one. So, okay, where to find healthy recipes. So Pinterest has always been one of my go-tos, just kind of typing in, oh, what recipes with these ingredients. But we do have an Iowa IV page if you search that. And I also have one, Kelli Hansen RD, where I've saved some different recipes. Also, definitely sign up to get on the wait list for my app. I'm going to be sharing that soon. Super excited. And that is going to have a lot of different recipes on there that I personally make and my clients make. So super excited for that. Okay, what to do if feeling dizzy throughout the week on my weight loss journey? I'm guessing, I didn't ask for sure, but that she is a little bit newer to using peptides, so her body is still adjusting to them. Need some water. But also I said to really make sure you're not too low in calories, not making any major adjustments to your diet too quickly, right? If we're lowering carbs, we want to go slow with that. Give our body some time to adapt. If we're missing protein and fat too, that can just lead to blood sugar problems, hypoglycemia possibly. So I would say do some tracking, schedule an appointment with me. Like that is quite scary to have dizzy spells and potentially be passing out. So we do not want that. Okay, next question was, should I eat a snack before my 5 a.m. workout? This also was a female, which I tend to recommend less fasting for females. Men tend to tolerate it better. Again, I don't want to make generalizations, but I do recommend pre-workout snacks for either gender, any genders. So 15 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs for women before strength training. If you're doing more cardio, running, biking, walking, 30 grams of just carbs is fine. But with the strength training, we want to add in that protein. I also just feel so much better throughout my workout when I do this. So an example would be like almond milk and protein powder, or a little bit of fruit juice or coconut water and protein powder. I feel like that's easy. It doesn't feel heavy in my stomach. So it's a great one. I also like some of those like protein or those mush oats cups or some fruit, peanut butter for a little bit of protein. So lots of options there. Okay, last question was, do I recommend a fiber supplement if we're not getting enough from our food? So women, we want to be getting close to 25 grams, even more is better. Men, 35 grams. So that's a lot of fiber. I would love to get that from food, plenty of vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, but it can be hard. So I would say fiber supplements are totally fine to add in. I like psyllium husk or chia seeds for a very affordable option. Go slow with those. Don't add too much at once, but you can do that a couple times a day. And then prebiotic fiber powders are also great for the gut. So Pure Encapsulations or the Microbiome Labs brand are two of my favorite. All right. So here are my QR codes to booking an appointment with me through insurance coverage. Also, I have my membership, labs, different things that are not all covered through insurance on my website under a little bit of construction right now, actually. But would love to do a call to chat through that if you are interested. Also to join my waitlist for the Unfiltered Nourishment app, which is coming soon. Super excited for that. Instagram, blog, podcast, all options to connect as well. So hopefully you're able to really take something away from today, apply it to your life. Please reach out if you have questions. Thanks, guys.